haven't been feeling very inspired as of late to get out to the shop and create anything. So I think when that happens, the best that you can do is jump right into the deep end, right? Try something entirely new, something you haven't done before. I spent about 12 hours cutting up a block of China Hollow picture jasper to find this picture right here, which kind of looks like a little fire, a little desert scene with a campfire, a plume of smoke coming up, which I like. I'm using the 10-inch lower tone saw with a 10-inch jingling blade. It's super thin, and that probably makes the best cuts on this type of material that sometimes likes to chip out. The majority of the work that we're going to be doing here will be on the high-tech diamond 8-inch flat lap, and I'll be using the Intarsia fence, my Intarsia fence, which you can go pick up at currently rockhounding.com/store. I do like to use the 90-degree angle for establishing a primary shape here, like a perfect square. I'm marking the top of the stone. Now it's just a matter of grinding to that first line, which we'll be able to use as a reference point for the rest of the grinding. The fence is square to the lap, and we have our 90-degree fixture, so I can push into the 90-degree fixture on the left with my thumb and push down with my index fingers, and that will push the stone into the lap perfectly square so that we can get that 90-degree angle that you need if you want to make something perfect. And of course, always check it with your calipers, and that's just a good practice regardless. The three different stones that I'm using in this project are the China Hollow picture jasper from Oregon. This is some white dolomite, which will be kind of the mat board, if you will, for this picture. And I kind of like that I picked stones from the 3 states that we've lived in. You know, we've lived in Oregon and Washington and now Utah. This white dolomite here is from Utah. I'm just drying them out of my candle warmer. Get all of that water out right before we go over to doing glue up. I make sure to clean everything with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. I'm marking my tops with a T so I don't get confused. I've gotten confused more than once doing stone Intarsia. I'm using some Bob Smith Industries CA glue, which that's how I do a lot of the basics, and I like to use the activator. After each piece that you glue up, you got to flatten that back on the lap, and you work your way around, and you have a bunch of pieces, and from the top they look a little ugly, but that back side, we're going to grind down the front side here, the back side's looking nice and smooth. This is the setting that we're going to be using. It is a vintage solid brass, made in America, BTS brass belt buckle, and I'm pretty stoked with this. I like it. It's very simple, very classic. You can see our piece here. We just went around with that dolomite and that basalt and kind of got it nice and flat for the most part. It's a good place to be. And I had a really hard time figuring out how to shape the stone so it would perfectly fit in the buckle. Well, I modeled it up in CAD and 3D printed some templates to be able to have the exact size that I'm going to need of the stone. If there's a better way of doing it, tell me, please. Did I mention I haven't done this before? I'm jumping in on the deep end here as far as trying to set something goes. What I'm doing here would not be considered best practice, and that is to use a quick setting CA glue as a backing stone. I do need to make this a little bit thicker so that we can work it down and get it to be the perfect thickness to fit in the belt buckle. And that's going to be held in with epoxy later on, But for this, I think it's perfectly acceptable to use a backing stone with some CA glue just for that added height that we're going to need. This is one of my absolute favorite parts of doing Intarsia, and that's when you have a bunch of ugly overhangs and glue all over the place, and you start to grind it down and start to take its final form. You really get to see the beauty of all of the planning and the fitment and the precision that you're able to create by hand. I've wanted to be able to wear some stone jewelry for a long time, and I love working with stones going rockhounding, but it's incredibly difficult to actually find something that I would want to wear. And I mean, most of what you have is rings, which I don't really want to be wearing big rings, a bolo tie, and a belt. I mean, there's not a whole lot of other men's stone jewelry that you can wear, and I think a belt buckle is a great candidate for something like that, because you don't always have to show it, you don't always have to see it. Everything that I'm showing here could definitely be done with a flat lap and the Intarsia fence, but sometimes it's nice to break out the Intarsia machine. I'm very thankful that I actually have one of the few Al Sisona Intarsia machines, the original Intarsia machine, and it's fun to break it out. And there are certain operations where maybe a viewing it from the top down can be nice, like the rounding of these little corners here to be able to fit into that belt buckle. It's kind of nice to be able to look down on the line versus straight on. Not necessary, but it's nice. It's fun to break out the old machine. It's difficult to show on camera, but the inside of the buckle has a fillet running all the way around it, so we can't just drop in a square stone. We have to put a nice angle on that, and to do that I'm going to be using the box miter on the Intarsia fence. Put that nice 45 there, and it will fit nicely, and it'll give the epoxy a place to go when it comes time to fit this thing in there. And it's looking good. I'm pretty happy with that. I think we'll lose some height out of that stone as we go through the grits. Nothing special. I did 260 electroplate, 360 electroplate, ran up through the resin discs all the way up to 14,000. I do like to put a piece of tape on the back to be able to pull the slab off of the disc. It just makes it a nice thing to add. I mean, it's convenient. I'm very pleased with how this came out. I think the polish is great. Even for dolomite and basalt, you can get a good polish on those. You take them up to 14,000, 50,000 grit. Fits good. Going to mix up a little bit of 2-part epoxy. This just so happens to be the JB Weld ultra clear, super clear epoxy. It's a 5-minute epoxy, but it does take 24 hours to fully cure, and that's about all it takes. Well, I am pretty pleased with how this came out. There are some hiccups along the way. There's a couple of things that I'd probably do differently in the future, but for the first pancake, I'm pretty pleased. I did leave it about like a fraction of a millimeter high over the brass buckle in case, I guess it got scratched up or something in the future. I'd be able to grind it down some and get any potential scratches out. I don't know if that's the proper way of going about doing something like this. Also, there's a little bit of a gap around the stone and the buckle where there's some inconsistencies in the actual buckle, and I don't know really how you would work around that other than having like a rotary grinding tool, like a Fordham, and to be able to perfectly shape the stone to the buckle. You know, typically a setting is more precise than this, I think. But other than that, I'm looking forward to doing some more buckles like this in the future. You know, I like kind of the understated nature of it. It's something wearable, not super flashy, you know. And yeah, very pleased. You let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you for hanging out, making it to the end of the video here. Go check out the website, currently rockhounding.com. There's all kinds of great info up there, as well as the store. You know, there's different products that I produce that you can find up there. And, with that said, enjoy the world of Intarsia.